is, like, children deserve to know the truth. And
Yes.
if there are lies they've been told, lies about you or what you've done, manipulated to believe, in order to reconnect and rebuild the bond, they need to know the truth. So that's where I'm at an impasse with this whole issue, because everyone is going to say, don't tell your child parental alienation. But then I hear of cases like yours and a few other people I've heard from where it was successful, and that's how they were able to reconnect with one or more of their children. So
some of my first memories of my childhood were of my mother telling me that my father didn't love me.
I felt closest to my mom when we were talking crap about my dad.
If I rejected my dad, I felt like I was getting my mom's approval.
Question, do I really know this person? Are they actually who my alienators said they were?
I had this overwhelming sense of having to protect my mom.
In her mind, she truly believes everything she's saying, that my dad was a terrible person all the time.
I did start asking questions, and I did want to fact check.
My life did bring Teletubbies in the rain, making splashes and holding hands with my children.
many targeted parents are really in a double bind, I think, because they want to tell their child what is happening with them. But all the experts and everybody out there, pretty much, I think, says emphatically not to tell your child what's going on with them with parental alienation. I've even spoken to a therapist who says that she's not allowed to tell the children or the parents about parental alienation when it's going on with them. And I've found this strange because with any other type of abuse, I think it's within the mental health professional and even the parents' right to tell the child what is going on with them and that it's wrong, and to help them see the truth and heal. I've actually made a video on this already about whether or not to tell your child about parental alienation. And in that video, I think I was pretty much saying that my dad did tell me when I was young, but I didn't believe it. It didn't really make a difference. And I could see how if you do tell your child, they might have a negative reaction, certainly. So I can see both sides. However, since thinking about this and doing a little bit more research, and especially talking to other people who have told their children what was going on, I'm starting to get a little bit of a difference in opinion. I'm certainly not saying that this is something that you should do or it's the right thing to do in all cases. That's not my message at all. But I'm starting to believe that in certain specific circumstances, there is a time and place to tell your child what has happened. I, of course, am not a mental health professional, and I'm just somebody who's had lived experience as a child being alienated from my dad for 2 decades. So today I have a friend, a previously alienated child, and targeted stepmom here with me, Jacqueline, hopefully to discuss this further and give an example of how sometimes it might be in the child's best interest to be told what they have been going through. So welcome, Jacqueline. I love to have you here on the Anti-Alienation Project. If you guys have watched my previous panel of adult survivors, Jacqueline was brave and gracious enough to be part of that discussion. So I'll leave a link to the video here. But welcome, Jacqueline.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be able to participate in such a wonderful, great project. Like, I mean, I completely 100% support you, and this is great. I feel like kids hearing it from other kids is the best thing. I mean, I feel like that is pivotal in the healing process.
Thanks. Well, you've certainly helped out a lot, and it's really helped me to connect with other people who've been through the same thing. That's why I agree with you. I think it's best to come from someone who's been through it.
We reunified last September. It's been a year of reunification officially. And last October, they came up and visited, and pretty much, we told them that it was alienation. We told them that we believe that what has happened here was parental alienation. So we were just forthcoming, or as far as the term. I've really been thinking about it. I think everybody is different. I can't answer how or why they accepted that or why they were so receiving of it. Because there was a point in time where years in the past, they were rejecting of my husband. My husband tried to reach out and and was completely rejected. It was when his daughter turned 18, and he's like, well, your mom can't control you anymore. And she's like, well, my mom doesn't control me. So that shows you where she was then. She was not able to even consider parental alienation. Like, if you would have brought that to her then, she would have probably been very upset. I can't answer what happened between 18 and 21 where she was able to hear my husband and I, my husband's side, but I'll have both of us speak. I can't explain what happened to her in that period of time. And for Brett, once his sister told him about us, we told him to Google it. And then it seemed like we were getting more questions. Like the term, when it come to talking about parental alienation, a lot of this was triggered by a question from him. Like
Okay.
he would want to know, like, what happened at this point in time, or what happened at this point in
I
time.
hate to interrupt, but just to give people a sense of what the relationship was like before, was it pretty much no contact for 10 years up until this point?
Yeah, it was pretty much no contact. The alienation started at the end of 2013. So we seen them in 2013, and then we didn't see them again until my husband's brother's wedding. So my brother-in-law's wedding in 2016. And then we didn't see them again until last year, 22.
So I'm thinking about different situations, and um, every case is so unique in certain ways. So do you think that having very little to no contact with you guys allowed the children to have a different perspective, or possibly be more open-minded and like, where were you, versus a different situation where the child is being contacted by the parent again and again and again, and that builds maybe frustration or anger or resentment? Maybe that protracted period of not hearing from you, not seeing you, did that have any effect on you guys feeling like we have to tell them what happened, otherwise they might think that we abandoned them?
That was very much a worry. My husband and I, we talked about it before we even told them about it. you know, how do we explain these last 10 years? How do we explain just absence? Which it wasn't absence. What it was my husband did contact his wife. He did call, but she made it out like there was absence. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she rejected the calls and stuff. So it wasn't like he wasn't trying. They never really heard it about anything. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for them, it was complete absence. But for us, my husband did reach out in between that time and pretty much was shut down. There was a point in time where my stepdaughter, she's like, you just left and never came back. So in her perception, she was abandoned. In her perception, he left and never came back. That's what she told him. I think there was a pivotal time between 2018 and 2022 that I can't explain. I don't understand how she went from, you know, rejecting to open-minded, or at least trying to hear his side. And then once she was, I guess, open to hear his side, then my stepson just come, behind her. They say that there's usually like a moment in time where like things can click and you can think like in a different perspective. Like you can, like, either it's moving away or starting a new relationship, and that person's like, well, why don't you
Yeah.
talk to your dad? Just that outside snippet to get them to wonder why. And I don't know if that's what happened in that period of time or not. But all I know is there was a period of time where I knew if we would have said anything, it would have been rejected.
That's what I want to dig into, because that's what I think will be most helpful for other parents listening. So what were some of the characteristics or things that you saw that told you it's not the right time for us to be bringing this up to her?
She was 18 years old, still very young. She was still living with her mom. She was still in that household. The phone call that I talk about, I know that she was pressured because they were there in the room. The only reason that we reached out to her at that time is because she was 18 years old and a legal adult. Because of the fact that they were adopted, my husband had no legal right to them anymore. That concerned my husband some too. And a part of the distance, and I don't even know if we've ever really explained to the kids why. But once the adoption went through and my husband's parental rights were completely gone, my husband didn't feel safe to reach out until the children were of age and adults, because he wouldn't put it past his ex-wife to say, this man is harassing my children. That was why he reached out at when she turned 18 years old as an adult. She said, stop calling me, don't call me anymore, don't, reach out anymore, all that. So they were standing right there,
Okay,
making
that
her
makes
do
sense.
that.
Was it 3 years later that you guys finally decided to tell her?
We waited one whole year. Her birthday is also in December. What we did is we decided to wait a year. My husband was hurt. My husband, felt rejected. He was sad. How that impacted him, like that was really hard. So we waited a year. So her 19th birthday, we didn't say anything. Then her 20th birthday, my husband called her again. And he
Okay.
just called her and left her a message and said, this is Shannon. He didn't refer to himself as dad.
Oh,
Because he didn't want to push that on her. He referred to himself by his first name, and he said, it's me, and I know it's your birthday, and I've been just trying to respect your space and your boundaries, but I couldn't ignore that the fact today was your birthday. And that was the voicemail. Well, he got a text message from her, and it said, thank you for the birthday wishes. It was something like, I know we need to talk, but I'm just not ready yet.
okay.
So by then, something started to change.
What were some of the signs that told you that I think that she's ready to hear from us what has happened? What were some of the signs you saw, behaviors or personality, anything that told you it's okay for us to do this now, besides the fact that she was an adult and besides the fact that she wasn't living at home anymore?
There was a lot of texting. She didn't respond to him for a year after that, after she said she wasn't ready. So there was another year that went by. A lot of it was texting. A lot of it was, her and him just talking back and forth together. We can look back at the text message, and there were points in time where she said, I don't want to talk about my mom. There were aspects where my husband, could say, this is how I felt. This is how I was not happy. And this is why I left. It wasn't because of you. It was because of the breakdown in your mom and my relationship, and she was okay with that. But then when it comes to talking about her mom, she really doesn't want to. Now with my stepson, with him, he asks a lot more questions.
Yeah.
With her, she didn't ask very many questions. Once we told her parental alienation, and I don't know if she Googled it or what, but I remember her responding, I just wish I would have figured it out sooner.
What caused you guys to tell them? Did she ask a question, or did you just feel as if you had no other choice?
We felt like we had no other choice than to say that, because of the fact that there has been so long gaps without seeing them. I mean, they did feel abandoned. I mean, there was years without contact. So, I mean, how else do you explain 10 years?
Right. You weren't trying to hurt her or reverse alienate her. You were trying to
Absolutely
explain
not.
why it was that you were unable to have her in your life, right? So
Right.
for any parents who might be might be in a specific situation similar to that, and they might be thinking, I think I need to tell my child what they've been through. Since your stepchildren were so receptive, or especially the younger of the two, were so receptive to understanding what has happened. Can you explain the particular way that you and your husband went about telling them, which might help other parents to know some pitfalls to avoid, or some specific things that are a good way or good tone or anything to include when you're telling them and explaining this to them?
With our situation, I feel like we made it as comfortable as we possibly could. We made it clear that we are not trying to reverse alienate them. We have told them that we want to have a relationship with them, but We want it separate from their mom. We want them to be able to have a relationship with us without interference with her. And we assured them that our goal here is not to keep them to not have a relationship with their mom. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that you can have a relationship with both of us on their terms, as far as like, but we just want our relationship separate from hers. Like, that we explained that. But then we also said there's a difference between bad mouthing and speaking your truth. You can speak your truth without bad mouthing. You can tell your story and your lived experiences without smear campaigning the other parent, if that makes sense. The environment was here at our home. It was very calm. It was very, we had a dinner, it was very much like
So it was in
very
person.
peaceful. Yes, it was in person. It was in person.
Did you have to get it out, or was it spur of the moment?
I don't think it was necessarily spur of the moment. My stepdaughter and my husband were talking for some months via text, and this was the first time that they were going to actually see each other in person. That's what it was. So this was planned. This was a planned occasion. The stepkids and my husband all like football, so they they both like football. So we planned it for a football game. It was on a Sunday that they came, and we had football going. And we had food. We just sat and talked for hours. I mean, they were here for like 6 hours that day. And it was the first time we have ever been able to talk to them at all. My husband and I were talking about it. Everything that their mom told them during that absence was made up because she had no contact with us. Because how would she know what's going on in our lives when there was no contact? Perfect example was their mom told them that their dad just signed them over and didn't want them when the adoption happened. And what they didn't know on our side is we contacted multiple attorneys, but they didn't hear that side because their mom didn't know we contacted multiple attorneys. How would she know what's going on in our home? You know what I mean? So she just spun the narrative, oh, they signed you over, when she didn't know that we went and contacted other attorneys. And how would she know that? She didn't. So then when, we told them that, my stepdaughter's like, well, she just told us that you didn't want us and that you just signed us over. Well, that was completely and utterly made up because she has no idea what really happened in our home.
Exactly. So the thing is, like, children deserve to know the truth. And
Yes.
if there are lies they've been told, lies about you or what you've done, manipulated to believe, in order to reconnect and rebuild the bond, they need to know the truth. So that's where I'm at an impasse with this whole issue, because I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of criticism for even doing this video, because everyone is going to say, don't tell your child parental alienation. But then I hear of cases like yours and a few other people I've heard from where it was successful, and that's how they were able to reconnect with one or more of their children. So I'm wondering, do you remember the specifics, the wording you used, the tone, or how you began to go about telling them? And if you do, would you be willing to sort of pretend like you're reenacting that and just say what you said that worked?
The tone was calm. I mean, I would talk to them no different than I'm talking to you right now. I mean, we're just having a conversation. There was no excitement, no, yelling. It was very calm, collected, safe environment. I think that's another important thing, is that they need to feel safe and they need to feel that, this is a comfortable space. So, us, it was at our home and they felt comfortable. But if they think that this could be like better in a public setting, you know what I mean, at a library or in a park or somewhere where, wherever the child feels comfortable. It's hard to remember exactly word for word what we said, but we told them we had no other way to explain this absence. My husband explained how he called, and pretty much we told them all these things. Like, he said that he called and, like, was getting denied, the bad mouthing, all that stuff. He pretty much told them the signs first, and then said, this is what we understand as parental alienation. We gave them like examples of what the alienating behaviors were and kind of tried to relate them to their experience, and then said what this is known as is parental alienation. It wasn't like a shock or anything, because I really don't even know if they understood the term when we told them that night. I mean, with my stepson is when I think he started researching it on his own more. And then after that, that's when the questions came. That's when he started wanting to know more about my husband's side. That initial day, it wasn't like a big blow up or like a big shocking moment, because I don't even think they even understood what we were telling them at the time. I think it was when they took the time to research it themselves or look it up themselves and try to understand what my husband and I were telling them, because you can explain it to them, but until they like take it in and like actually think about it and then research it or whatever, that's where the questions and everything come. I feel like it kind of took the scariness away when my husband and I approached it with calm and compassion and understanding and empathy, and just trying to explain our perspective or our story. And like I said, you can tell your side of the story or your perspective without bad mouthing the other parent. You can just say, this is what happened in my home. This is how I was thinking at this time.
When you're having this conversation, do you think it's important to include the term parental alienation so they can do their own research? And that's probably when they'll have their aha moment, when they read about all the signs and symptoms.
With our experience, that's how it is. I mean, I can't speak on every situation, but there is no other thing that you can just say and that they can go research and look up. That's what they can look up. That term, you can Google it and like all kinds of stuff comes up for it. You know what I mean? So that was the easiest term to say to them to get them to be able to start looking into it themselves.
Targeted parents, I feel like they're walking on eggshells when I hear from them. That it's just like they're I get the sense that people are afraid that if they say the wrong word or look at their child a wrong way, that's it, they're doomed, the child. And I understand where that's coming from. It is based on like true fear and
Yeah.
legitimate. So I think a lot of parents are really afraid to tell their child what's going on, and it might not be the right situation, the right time to tell them what's going on. Perhaps if there are certain signs, a lot of anger, hatred, they will not be receptive to the message at all. I think that's important, just so people are aware. And I'm interested myself in knowing, what has your stepchildren's reaction been to you guys telling them the truth? Were they happy that you told them the truth? Were they angry at you for telling them the truth?
We didn't see any anger. Right now, we're in a period of regression a little bit with my stepdaughter. I feel like she and my stepson are kind of on a little bit of a different journey, even though they're going through the same thing, but everybody is different. That shows you, one child is gonna react differently than the other child. With my stepson, we asked him how he would have felt if we wouldn't have told him. And he said he would have been upset, and he said he would have asked us why we didn't tell him.
Oh.
So that's just one answer. That's just his answer. With my stepdaughter, I don't know how she's feeling. Definitely overwhelmed. I feel like it was overwhelming for her. I think it's like any other alienated child when you realize that the parent that you've been clinging to this whole time is the one that's causing you the most harm. I feel like that's where she's at.
The trauma.
Where, yeah. And like I said, right now we're in a period of regression as far as, she's going to be 22. I mean, she's living her own life. She's figuring things out on her own. But, I'm hopeful that she will come back, and there will be times where she can process more and she can, open herself up more. Like I said, it can show you where two children can have two different perspectives. I mean, with my stepson, he it's like, well, if you wouldn't have told me, I would have asked you why you didn't tell me. It's like the craziest phenomenon to me, because I can't explain how he just resonates with this. He understands it. And like this explains everything to him. Not every kid is like him, though. Not every kid is going to say, yeah, I read and like this is me. He has even called it alienation. Like he's now starting to able to say, when he talks to people, he'll say, I was alienated from my dad. Like he says stuff like that now. So he resonates with it a lot. Like he says the words like, I was alienated from my dad, or I was kept from my dad for however many years. That shows you, we have two children that it's completely different for.
The fact that he was so receptive to it, this does prove to me that there are certain circumstances where it is not even appropriate, but it's in the child's best interest to know the truth. And I wish there was more research done on this particular topic and this issue, because I think parents probably feel like they're blind and just searching around for the right thing to do, and they've been told not to tell their child. But I can only imagine that would be like the most instinctual thing to do, is to try to tell your child so that they can wake up to reality.
Yeah, and it all comes down to timing. There was a point in time where I can tell you it was not a good time and we did not say anything. But then, during that point in time, I don't know what happened and changed her perspective. But, there was a point in time where we were able to say something. So it's, it's all different. It's all different. It's, all different timing. It's more, you got to like feel it out. If you're getting completely rejected, like I wouldn't try to bring it up. But then if your kid is in a position where they're like, okay, well, I'm going to try to start reaching out to you and talking to you, maybe that could, like, that's what our situation was. Like, we were able to. So, I mean, everything's different.
So you think maybe one sign that they might be potentially open to hearing the other parent's point of view, maybe if they're reaching out to the parent, maybe if they're wanting a little bit more communication, it might be a sign that this could be a good time.
Yeah. Or if there is no communication for years and they're actually texting you back consistently, that's a good sign, in my opinion. That's a very good sign.
I think so too. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It's just great to have met you, to be able to be friends, and to hear your point of view. So many people are going to be interested in hearing about this, because what you've shared with your stepson and your stepdaughter, it seems like he has, especially your stepson, has much more hope now, maybe for the future.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't feel quite as stuck, even though he's still living with his alienator. He has you guys, and he has the future to look forward to. And I know from personal experience, the targeted parent, even my stepmom, like my dad and my stepmom were my saving grace throughout this whole thing. So you have a very, very important, special role in his life. And I know that he probably loves you to death and values you and your husband so much, because they don't get that unconditional love from their alienator. So I just want to say, like, thank you for doing that for him. And I mean, of course, as your stepmom, I know that you would do that no matter what, but
yeah, we love him.
it's just really beautiful to see. It's really beautiful to see. I just want to share the opposite side of this particular issue, because I don't think I've ever seen anything online saying you can tell your child in a specific situation. But yeah, this is something that I want to explore further. And thank you so much for being willing to share your experience and being here to participate in my project. You're welcome anytime, of course.
I'm glad to be here, and we're here for all the other kids. We're here for all the kids that are still trapped, or adult kids that are, figuring it out. We're here for them. That's why I'm here. No matter what the haters say, that this is what we're going to do, and we're going to keep doing it. And I'll be here as many times as you want me to be here.
Well, that's a great way to end this episode. And I'll put in also, Jacqueline has been an active member of the new support group that I've put together for child survivors who have now figured everything out, 18 and above. If you are a child survivor who's been watching my videos or thinking about reaching out, please contact me if you're interested in joining the support group. We meet 2 times a month. It is via Zoom right now. It's been just a brand new support group, so you haven't missed much at all. And I found it really helpful. It's my hope that this support group can eventually grow and that we can make more and more support groups. And eventually it would be great to have one in person for people, different areas in
Yes,
person.
absolutely.
So if you need support, if you want to hear what it's like for other people who've been through it, I promise there's so much validation and mutual understanding in speaking with people who've been through this very specific form of abuse. If
And
you're,
it's a safe space, and it's a safe space.
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
no judgment, no, no criticism, no nothing. We're all here to support each other. You know what I mean? Like, you can get on that chat and you can talk to Maddie, anybody is there, and it's all about support. It's all about being in a safe space. There's no judgment.
All confidential. If you want to join a support group video, it's an hour and a half long Zoom chats twice a month. We also have a group chat where you can message, but even if you want to just attend and not have your camera on, that's fine. So please reach out, the Anti-Alienation Project at gmail.com. And I'd love to talk to you to see if this would be a good fit. This is I've gotten a lot of messages from targeted parents wanting a support group and asking if they can join, but I just want to make it clear, this is for children who've been through it specifically. It's very important for me to keep it to just children, because if you go on Facebook or other resources online, you can find hundreds of support groups for targeted parents, which is great, by the way. I'm so happy that exists, but there are 0 for the children, except for this one that I've created. So please email me, spread the word if you know an alienated child who might be needing support. There really is no support for us out there right now. I hope to offer more and more avenues of support as we go along. And again, thank you, Jacqueline, for helping me with this project. And you are just an awesome force. So I hope this video has been helpful for some people, and we'll see you next time.